Pan-Africanism is defined as the togetherness of all people of African descent and the cooperating and working for the freedom and independence of all African people everywhere, including Africa, in the Caribbean, and the Americas. Pan-Africanism is the sentiment that people of African descent have a great deal in common, a fact that deserves notice and even celebration. Pan-Africanism began to spread in the United States by the mid-19th century by intellectuals of African descent Martin Delany, Alexander Crummell, and Edward Blinden. These individuals felt that blacks from the Western Hemisphere would prosper better if they went back to Africa. They were motivated by their Christian missionary spirit. W.E.B. Du Bois is modernly credited as the real father of Pan-Africanism, with his advocacy for the study of African history and culture. Du Bois made a famous statement: "The problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line," thus unifying how both ones from African descent and ones in Africa were facing suffering by the hands of Europeans. Marcus Garvey from Jamaica was another important Pan-Africanist thinker. He founded the organization of Universal Improvement Negro Association. He became very popular among African Americans with the idea that they could return back to Africa. He even had a shipping company, but his endeavors were ultimately unsuccessful. Other Pan-Africanist leaders include C.L.R. James and George Padmar, both from Trinidad, Leopold Senghor from Senegal, Aimé Césaire from Martinique, and Jomo Kenyatta from Kenya. Even though these individuals were born outside of the U.S., they gained a lot of inspiration from African American culture. After the 1940s, the American influence on Pan-Africanism receded due to many Pan-Africanists holding beliefs of communism. Africans were now taking the lead. A prominent leader during this time was Kwame Nkrumah. He believed that European rule could be extinguished out of Africa by means of uniting. He became the first president of Ghana. By the 1960s and 70s, Pan-Africanism came back in the form of the Black Power movement. By this time, many African Americans were trying to be in touch with their roots by adopting different cultural aspects of African countries, like wearing kente cloth, which is from Ghana. Modernly, the Afrocentrism movement spans from the Pan-Africanism. Such individuals such as Molife Asante, an African American professor, Cheikh Anta Diop from Senegal, Americans Carter Woodson, and Maulana Karenga, the creator of Kwanzaa. Pan-Africanists also made political moves. The first Pan-African Congress took place in 1919 in Paris. The conference that followed criticized European colonialization in Africa. By the end of World War II, numerous African nations had gained their independence. By the start of the 21st century, politically, Pan-Africanism was more popular in Africa. Pan-Africanism had a huge impact on the arts, specifically in cities such as New York, London, and Paris. In the 1930s, during the Harlem Renaissance, artists portrayed Pan-Africanist sensibilities. For instance, writers James Weldon Johnson, Langston Hughes, Zora Neale Hurston, and many others. Pan-Africanism in art is the reclaim of cultures through expression by means of language, art, dance, and music, which guide interpretations and intellectual pursuits. Early Pan-African writers and intellectuals who made a major impact were Claude McKay and Langston Hughes. They were greatly influenced by the major shakers before them. Langston Hughes was an American poet, social activist, novelist, playwright, and columnist. He was most widely known for Montage of a Dream Deferred. Like many artists, Afrofuturism uses jazz to evaluate the conditions in which Black people of his time lived, and also by evaluating the past to envision a different future. Claude McKay, a Jamaican writer and poet, he was a great influence on many Pan-African intellectuals. His poem, entitled My Home, has various elements of Afrofuturism and Afro-surrealism. Paul Nadema is a Ugandan artist that focuses on Pan-African influence. Other influences come from the injustice ones face from law enforcement and Christianity. In his painting, The Last Supper, it shows many of the Pan-Africanist leaders in a typical Christian setting. Many artists use different countries of Africa along with the themes of Afrofuturism to bring their art to life. These two pieces I find really striking, with their use of space and the unknown with specific African cultures to show something so awe-inspiring to view. There are many Pan-African festivals that take place around the world. There, they showcase different African countries and their various cultures through language, art, dance, and music. This thus creates a cultural exchange. These pictures here showcase the different countries where the festivals are presented. The top left picture takes place in Ghana, the bottom left picture takes place in Trinidad and Tobago, and the right picture takes place in Angola. This thus shows the togetherness of how people from African descent have a great deal in common and how they should celebrate this. The Pan-African Film Festival takes place in Los Angeles, California every February. The first festival was organized by Danny Glover and Jeanette Du Bois. They are dedicated to the promotion of cultural understanding among people of African descent. It was called the largest black film festival in the United States by the Los Angeles Times. Films such as Black Panther, Black Privilege, and Bilal were featured at this year's Pan-African Film Festival. These movies again touched on the themes that are featured in both Afrofuturism and Pan-Africanism. Their visuals and cinematography brought many of these themes to life. With the colors of the Pan-African flag, red meaning the blood that unites all people of African ancestry and shed for liberation, black meaning black people whose existence as a nation, though not a nation state, is affirmed by the existence of the flag, and green meaning the abundant natural wealth of Africa. Pan-Africanism can unite black people in order to connect in ways that have not been seen before.